Are games ready for gay main characters? Let's find out. Okay, follow me along on a little thought experiment. You're finishing up Halo 5 or 6 or whatever. Master Chief is wreaking havoc on the Covenant, and your energy sword has never felt so good. But then, there's a cutscene. Master Chief sends a tender message to his husband back on Earth, or a box of Spartan chocolates, I don't know. Never mind the whole catalytic thyroid implant that suppresses Master Chief's sex drive. This is an intimate moment between two men who love each other very much. To be clear, I'm not saying Master Chief is or isn't gay, but if he was, and you knew in advance, would that stop you from buying the game? Now the reason I ask, well, one, it's an interesting question, but also I'm wondering, why hasn't this happened yet in the world of games? I mean, clearly outside of this fictional scenario, the tide has turned in favor of gay rights.
I think same-sex couples should be able to get married.
Illinois will become the 15th state to legalize gay marriage. What up, Prairie State? Popular shows like Glee and Modern Family feature gay leads. Out musicians like Tegan and Sarah regularly top music charts. Hell, there's even a gay WWE wrestler. But my beloved video games? Not so much. Gay characters are woefully underrepresented. Like seriously, they're barely there. Except for maybe Venom from Guilty Gear X and kinda sometimes Commander Shepard, who we'll get to in a moment. It's almost impossible to find playable gay characters. But let's take a look at a few anyway. First, there are characters who are rumored to be queer. Birdo and Cloud may or may not be gay, but their companies have taken sort of a don't ask, don't tell policy. Second are the punchlines, like Poison from Final Fight and Kike Montemayor from Red Dead Redemption. Also everything from Choeniki and Muscle Mark. Seriously, this is a little backwards, and it's not too far from early Hollywood stereotypes of blacks who existed just to make white people laugh. Third are the gay side characters, who tend to be NPCs. While Grand Theft Auto has not shied away from gay characters like Bernie Crane and Gay Tony, is yet to let you play as them. And Bill from The Last of Us is a great example of a well-produced character who also happens to be gay. But, surprise, surprise, he's not playable. We'll get to why playable characters are really important in a sec. And finally, the most progressive form of LGBT representation so far, the gay option. This one's actually pretty good, but still it tends to have some problems. Like many RPGs, Star Wars The Old Republic lets you customize your character, and in it, you can choose your sexual orientation. Finally, a game where you can play as a gay character. But if you want to be gay, you'll be segregated from straight players on a totally separate planet. Literally, all the gay characters are on an entirely separate planet from the straight ones. This is not a good solution. I repeat, not a good idea. But there are good examples of the gay option. One of the best is from Mass Effect. In the game, you're free to pursue sexual relations with any gender or species you choose, which is fantastic. But to a player who doesn't choose that romantic route, homosexuality doesn't even exist in their game. By contrast, hundreds, if not thousands of games have heterosexual relationships as a given, a default. And that's an important distinction. Similar to having female or minority characters as the only option, having to play as a gay character would show that it's truly accepted as normal, and that's a significant step that we haven't made yet. This is the key issue. Heteronormativity is the assumption that heterosexuality is the only true sexual orientation or norm. And intentional or not, video games are falling into this trap. If we aren't willing to even portray homosexuality, then we're not truly showing it as normal and acceptable. So why hasn't there been a major game with a gay character as a default? Let's get the usual suspects out of the way. You might say it's because the gaming audience is primarily straight young males who have no interest in playing as a gay character.
www.callandutiesgay.com.
This is the that kind of game wouldn't sell argument. Well, first off, the average age of a game purchaser is 35, half of all gamers are women, and besides, the Pew Research Center found that millennials were more open to gay rights than any previous generation. As far as the it won't sell idea, we can't really know that because no one's really tried. Or maybe you'd say gays make up a small percentage of the population and therefore make up a small percentage of gamers. So there wouldn't be that many games. This may be true, but it's still not a good excuse and seems to have very little bearing on other media. On broadcast television, for example, GLAAD found the number of LGBT characters is higher than it's ever been. There are 31 regular LGBT characters on the 5 broadcast networks. This isn't even counting True Blood. Just because a certain type of people are a minority doesn't mean that they shouldn't get depicted in media at all, or that featuring them as a central character is unnecessary or unacceptable. Can you even count 31 gay characters from the last few years? So is there something else that explains the lack of LGBT characters in games? Maybe. Because of their interactivity, games have a higher level of intimacy and therefore require a greater degree of acceptance. As the game designer behind Problem Machine blog said, there's a salient difference between games and other media. In those other media, the audience isn't expected to directly inhabit the character, to treat them as an avatar. Think about it. When you watch a gay character on TV, there's a clear delineation between the character and the viewer. You're essentially saying it's totally okay for this other person, who's distinctly not me, to be gay. But when you're playing games, the boundaries are much blurrier. As Mike over at Idea Channel explained in his video Controlling versus Being Your Video Game Avatar. When you're playing a video game, you're expected to make decisions as that avatar. It's asking you to actually become that character.
No, one of my cars is gone.
Psychologist Lucas Blinka describes the relationship between player and avatar as a transmission field. We give to our avatars, and they give back to us. By inviting us to play as a gay character, games would essentially be asking us to become a little bit gay. And that's why creating a playable character is so important. With a playable character, you would have to accept that being gay is okay. This is the same logic that applies to having black, female, or Latino characters. We're comfortable having non-white or non-male characters because we believe that those experiences are no longer inferior. I mean, as long as the game's really good. If there was a game that featured a gay lead, would it be challenging and make some people uncomfortable? Sure. Would some people complain about being forced to play as a gay character? Of course they would. Gamers complain about everything.
How hard can it be to just get to one f***ing place?
But that's life, and that's progress. Someone has to start taking risks. And it should be said that there's a huge community of gamers that would be ecstatic at something this inclusive. The gamer community, see what they did there? Has annual conventions and has been pushing for representation for years. Games are at their best when they ask us to do something outside of our comfort zone, outside of our everyday experience. And this is one of the many reasons why people love to play games. So what do you all think? Could the gaming world handle a gay main character? Would you be willing to play as one? Hash it out in the comments, and if you like what you saw, please subscribe. I will see you next week. Last week, we talked about graphics, and you all had a lot to say. Let's take a look. My Gaffer asks, what's wrong with Bob Ross? Nothing's wrong with Bob Ross. We were just using him as an example because they're both painters and they use a similar set of tools, but their outcomes are very, very different. Show vs. Dallas says that graphics didn't matter, but gameplay does. More specifically, I like the term they used, world building, because that's what happens when you get immersed into a particular environment. It's this whole universe that opens up to you, and that's what's seductive about games, not necessarily how it looks, but very well put, very well put. Dean2663 says that all else being equal, which is called ceteris paribus in Latin, by the way, better graphics is much, much better, which I totally agree with, and I don't think the point of the video is to say that graphics are utterly important, or if you care about resolution, if you care about high performance, that those things are all of a sudden invalidated. I'm just saying we need to take a more expansive view, and that's one piece of a much larger puzzle that explains why we love the games that we love. But yeah, that's very well put. Chip Chipperson points out what I'm sure a lot of you PC users already know, which is that PCs are already light years ahead of the consoles. Yeah, that's totally true. But I think one thing you might see with things like the Steam Box is more people who are interested in that type of performance might be switching over to PCs, and vice versa. I think those lines are becoming a lot more fluid now. But yeah, PC is awesome. Ort7Ninja says that this idea of pixels meaning more progress is something that happened during the GameCube PS2 age, and that frankly that was the first time we started to really notice when graphics became more important, and that he finds certain types of games are actually more difficult to play. Older games are more difficult to play now because they don't reflect the same 2D and 3D reality. The only thing I would say is that graphics can be relative in that context, and so we often look at older things as being difficult to play because we know what new things look like. John Ono points to the beleaguered tail of the Jaguar, made by Atari. If you haven't heard of it, you should go look it up. Check out John's comment and also the Wikipedia page. Essentially, the Jaguar was pushed as a super future forward game console and ultimately was plagued by a bunch of different problems with developers. I can't go into technical detail here, but it was a total mess. So yes, a cautionary tale for all. And one last thing, we hit 1 million total views for the series, which is amazing. That's a lot of people. I couldn't have dreamed of that in my wildest dreams. But thank you all so much for watching, all your support, and most importantly, for all the amazing comments that we've gotten from you. Just really insightful, thoughtful stuff that gives us great fodder for future episodes and things to talk about. So thank you all for all your support, and we'll keep making amazing game shows for you.